eating starts in the kitchen. Hello, my name is Winnie Chen and I am a registered dietitian. And today I'd like to show you how to make a Bao-Zi, which is a pork bun. Now it actually doesn't have to be pork. It could be chicken, it could be beef, it could be lamb, or could be vegetarian as well. The bun is based off an yeast dough. So let's talk about the yeast first. So when you want to do a yeast based dough, you wanted to prove the yeast first. What that means is just to make sure that the yeast is working, it's alive, and it can raise it. Some recipe will also tell you to skip this step, skip the proving step, and just mix everything together. Which if the yeast you buy is healthy, it's fresh, it will work. But I like to still do the proving just to make sure if it's not alive, your yeast dough will not rise. And when you do all these work and you realize your dough is flat because the yeast is not working, you just waste all these work that you do. So I don't like to skip this step. When it comes to using the proving step, we call you wake up the yeast with warm water and some sugar and the yeast. Now it's important also the water to be warm. The best way for you to make sure that if your water is warm is by using a thermometer. When it comes to cooking, I think a thermometer is very important, just to make sure that you are very exact with your temperature. So right now here I have it about 100, which is pretty much a warm water. Between 100 and 110 is a good temperature. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna add the yeast, and then I'm gonna give the yeast a little bit of food here. So I'm gonna put some sugars in here. If you want the dough to be a little bit sweeter, you actually could add more. So I want it to be a little bit sweeter. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna add sugars in here, and I'm just gonna let it rise. I'm just gonna mix it around and to see if the bubble will come up. So after maybe about 5 to 10 minutes, it will create this foam. It just shows that the yeast is working. Now the next thing is the flour. There's all kinds of flour. There's the wheat flour, there's the wheat pastry flour, there's all-purpose flour, this is bread flour, cake flour. It really depends on what your purposes are. Now, for me, I actually like to have just simple all-purpose flour in my house, and I like to improve the nutrition quality by adding things like wheat bran, bruised yeast, or even milk instead of water to make it more nutritious. The reason why I don't like to have so many different flour, like wheat pastry, wheat flour, buckwheat flour, I realized that sometimes I only use it for one or twice, and then I end up throwing the whole thing away. So I tend to find having an all-purpose flour does its job. But I know sometimes people are very picky. Like for example, when people want to make pizza, they will use the Italian 00 pizza flour. When people want to make cake, they wanted to use the cake flour, which gives you a fluffy texture, which it does its job. But just you have to ask yourself, like, how often am I going to make this, and how picky I am. So if you're not too picky and you just want to have something always in the house, I think all-purpose flour is way to go. So with my flour, what I will do is I'm going to add different ingredients here to improve the nutritional quality. Now I want to talk about is the liquid adding to this yeast-based dough. So this kind of dough is what we consider a harder dough, which means that for every 400 grams of flour, you use about 220 to 230 grams of liquid. Now, if you're not an experienced cook, I think is using a kitchen scale to actually measure ingredient is the way to go. And once you become more experienced, you can know what the dough feels like. You can probably start using measuring cup. But to start, using a kitchen scale to actually measure your ingredients. Typically, people would say you just use water. I like to actually use milk to improve the nutrition quality. Now I also want to go over the next ingredient is your fillers. Now you typically use ground meat. My favorite is the Sprouts lean ground pork. I like that, and then what I will do is I will add a little bit olive oil to it so that so that the texture becomes more moist. You can buy higher fat pork too, because then you get that moisture. The reason why I like to buy lean pork and add olive oil to it, because I'm using lean meat, but I'm adding high quality fat to it. Versus if you're buying a very fatty ground meat, you just have a lot more saturated fat. So that's what I like. That's my preferences. And then let's talk about the fillers. I like to use Chinese cabbage, and this is what I'm showing is the American cabbage. The Chinese cabbage is flatter, it's wider and flatter, and I like that because it's a little bit, it's what I consider sweeter, and it's best to use for the body. I like to chop to be a little bit smaller, to about like a pea size, around pea size, so that you can still see the cabbage in there. If you are using it for this to make dumpling, you probably want to be very finely chopped, almost ground. You chop them and then you just mix these two ingredients together. And now what I'm gonna do is, since this thing is already all bubbly, I'm gonna begin and just start adding it.